needs to be done for the mechanic's position is fabricated point. So know that the board has many other matters on their agenda to deal with contact employees and questions. As you know, paperwork and everyone cooperating will be necessary to help make this happen as soon as possible. I'm sure this is a priority for the board and all the members and all the management. Since this is a serious concern for Colorado County, we are all interested in maintaining healthy employee relations and a healthy community. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Respectfully submitting your employee inspector, Randy Conley.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Corey Burnell. I have an independent investment management practice in Dallas Springs called Burnell Wealth Management. Last week I presented a report to the board entitled Economic Considerations for Calaveras County. In my report I referenced a study done earlier this year by Syrian via Sensio, but it has since come to my attention that the via the Sensio study had not been given to the board. So I'm back this morning to provide it to you along with some additional comments. Last week I spoke briefly about the dire financial conditions of both the U.S. federal government and the state of California. I warned that on our current course, our nation likely has higher inflation, interest rates, and unemployment awaiting us in the coming decade. And evidence this past week continues to confirm my suspicions. Bloomberg reported on December 10th that it now costs more to insure U.S. Treasury bonds against default than it does to insure bonds of the Campbell Soup Company. This is a logical response when one considers the explosion in debt and deficits at the federal level, the near tripling of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet in just 4 months, and the impending fiscal catastrophe beginning in 2011 as 78 million baby boomers begin hitting Social Security and Medicare rolls. The bond markets understand the federal government must either print new money out of thin air to pay its debts or it must default, and hence the incredible rise in the cost to insure treasuries. When we also consider the global nature of this recent economic deceleration and its impact on the nations that traditionally buy our treasuries, it all adds up to an impending collapse in treasury bond prices, sending interest rates to new heights in the years ahead. The simple consequence of all this is that high interest rates constrain economic expansion, and we need to prepare our local economy to withstand such a scenario as best we can. Last week I also reported that California's budget deficit was projected to balloon to $28 billion 18 months from now. Well, that number has already been revised upward to $48 billion, leading the governor to say that California is facing a financial Armageddon. The current year deficit is now $15 billion, up from $11 billion last week. And the situation would be comical if not so serious. In just the past 3 months, the cost of insuring 10-year California bonds against default has more than tripled, putting it in line with Mexico and Chilean bonds. Quite obviously, the situation continues to worsen for the state. Against this dire backdrop, our county faces decisions that will impact our economy for years to come. My concern over these circumstances prompts me to speak out in favor of fiscally beneficial projects such as the Ridge of Trinitas. The report before you does an excellent job of detailing what might be expected economically from the project's success. Though I can't cover it in depth at this podium, I'll briefly review a couple highlights again. The report estimates local construction expenditures of approximately $20 million, approximately 48 to 60 new jobs created, with a payroll totaling about $1.5 million. $250,000 in building fees and road improvements paid by the developer. Economic impacts from out-of-county guests ranging from $3.5 to $14 million, and total county tax revenues of $500,000 to $1.4 million. Mr. Villavicencio lists many tables in his report that underlie the above estimates. I mentioned in my comments a week ago the extreme importance of the inflow of millions of dollars a project can generate from sources outside the county. This amounts to a large trade surplus with the world outside Calaveras, as locally produced goods and services are sold out of county gas. Trade surpluses are the communal income by which one community becomes wealthier than another. Conversely, communities that run trade deficits become poorer, since they're either borrowing or spending their savings to consume beyond their aggregate income. The Trinitas project would contribute positively to Calaveras County's trade account, or in other words, to our aggregate net income, thereby enriching the entire community either directly or indirectly. I also find it worth noting that Trinitas' production for the county is sustainable in that it consists of services and agriculture, which differs substantially from, say, an enterprise that depletes or replaces the natural resources. So I continue to encourage the board to place great importance on the economic circumstances before us during your consideration of the Trinitas project. For members of the audience, there are the reports, both the one I just referenced and the report generated last week on the table out and where you'd like to come.
Thank you. Chairman, Supervisors, I'm Allison Allen, President of Calaveras County Taxpayers Association, and I'd like to piggyback on Corey's comments. The Taxpayers Association has adopted his report, and we also have the report from Trinitas on our website. We'll have his report shortly on our website, and so we support the conclusions that he has, and also would like to encourage you to not only support projects such as Trinitas, but also other projects that would contribute to the economic well-being of the county. And that's not to say that we expect you to approve anything that was perfect to the community or to the neighbors or anything like that. That doesn't mean that you would automatically oppose projects which some neighbors may not want to see come into existence. Later this morning on your schedule is a discussion of the easement issue, and we'd like to make comments on that as well along the same line. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chris Williams. I'm an attorney here in San Andreas. I really hadn't intended to get up and speak about these particular things. I'm very interested in your legal access discussion, but I too would like to thank Phil Claudino for his public service. I don't always agree with him, but I don't question his sincerity and his commitment to the job. To the extent it can help them at all, I support those 8 employees from the building department. I know, we all know how bad the economy is, and that it has a role in what's happening. But I think that laying off those 8 breadwinners is like a really unhappy Merry Christmas gift from the former CEA director, because she blew through that department's budget like a hot knife through butter. And if you had that land use money now, that $500,000 or more, whatever it was, maybe with other adjustments, furloughs, day off here and there, those people wouldn't have to be let go. And so I think there's a huge equity for you to consider there. I don't know all the ins and outs financially, but I think that has a lot to do with why there's no money for those 8 people. It's not just the slowdown in the economy. And I hope you would consider that in looking at their situation. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Dave Andrews. I'm the general manager of the Calaveras County Water District. And I've come here this morning to advise the board that the CCWD is currently working on our federal lobby, with our federal lobbyists on positioning the district to take advantage of any stimulus bill that may be forthcoming in Congress. The district has identified the West County Raw Water Pipeline as a high priority. This project proposes to extend surface water from the Calaveras River to portions of the West County currently being served by groundwater. The project is intended to provide for agricultural, recreation, and environmental enhancement to the area. It's anticipated that any projects funded under the proposed stimulus bill will likely be prioritized based on two criteria: job creation and the ability to proceed in a timely manner. The district is currently reaching out to property owners in the area to determine the needs for surface water in order for this project to be successful. Public-private partnerships need to be developed. One of the partnerships proposed is for bringing surface water to the Ridge of Trinitas project. This project meets the criteria identified above, that is that it creates jobs, and that it also is a project that could proceed rapidly. They have identified through a letter to our district assistance in the form of $1 million to be offered to meet matching funds required under federal grant requirements. The district will be seeking your support in the future as this federal stimulus proposal gets legs and moves forward through Congress, and we'll be asking for your support in behalf of the district to try to get money to come in and create jobs in Calaveras County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I know most all of you. My name is Jim Frost. I'm Superintendent of Calaveras Unified. But today I'm here really speaking as Jim Frost, private citizen, somebody who's worked in the Calaveras Unified School District and served the north two-thirds of the county for approximately 20 years. Normally I would be a cheerleader for all projects that provided opportunities for our children, as I'm an advocate for children and have been for all of that time. But lately, as you know, with our hard economic times, I've seen huge changes. I've seen things I never thought I'd see. I've seen a food bank develop in Valley Springs that is tremendously used now. I know a lot of the service clubs are contributing to that food bank because it's greatly needed. I have had calls personally from parents of ours that have always been big donors to us and have had sizable incomes who are asking for 3- and 4-hour aid jobs to tide them over during these rough economic times. And right now, I really view a lot of the families in our district in crisis. And so any opportunity for economic advancement for those families is vital. Really, as Calaveras Unified School District, you just heard about all the state budgetary problems. We're just finishing our reports, our financial reports, and looking at our 3-year projections. And next year, depending if we look at the legislative analyst's budget recommendation, Calaveras Unified will take a $600,000 cut in funding from our $28 million budget. If you follow the governor's budget recommendations, our cut will be $1.8 million. And today the Republican caucus came out with their budget recommendations, and we'll take a $6 million hit to our budget. So those jobs that we have provided in our community, and you know Calaveras Unified is one of the largest employers in the county, there is no doubt under any scenario that people, good people, who we have hired, and I know you're facing the same thing as we just heard, good people that we have hired, through no fault of their own, are probably going to be laid off. And so any opportunity that private sector kinds of job opportunities for our community to help our families and help our children would be very beneficial. Plus, as the gentleman said, the Taxpayers Association, those fees coming in, Calaveras Unified has stepped to the plate for the county, I believe, in working partnership with the county. We provide the public library in Valley Springs. We provide recreational opportunities with our playgrounds, our fields, all of that. Calaveras Unified stepped to the plate. We provided the classrooms to educate our children. To do that, we've passed bond issues, but we've also assumed some debt. That debt has been paid for basically through developer fees and income coming from private developments. And now that the economy's turned around, those sources have dried up, and that serves as a further cut for our budget as we have to service that debt then from our educational funds. So I think we're at a time of crisis, and projects like Pentecost and other projects that could be considered, I think, should be highly considered as the quality of our families. So that would depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, group. My name is Leslie Martin. I live at 8221 Olive Branch Lane in Valley Springs. And actually, I want to thank everyone, wish everyone a very, very happy holiday season. And I know your job is tough. And Bill, congratulations on your upcoming retirement. But anyhow, I own one of the oldest vineyards in western Calaveras County. It dates back to 1912. And to those of us that work the land, we recognize that water is gold. We know it, we've heard it said many, many times. And those of us with a modicum of common sense know that water seeks its own level. It starts up here in the hills, it goes down, and yep, San Joaquin Aquifer is being overdrafted. We know it, the water levels are dropping, so we tend to backbite each other. There's so much backbiting on this Pentecost. I've been quiet for 4 years. Time starts talking. But anyhow, the comments of CCWD and then the fact with the Army Corps of Engineers, there are water rights in New Hogan. It's 34,000 acre feet. I don't know whether that's true. That's either use it or lose it. And folks, let's get real. We better use the stuff here in Calaveras County, find a proper use for it, and use these rights. Moving raw water down to Trinitas or Trinitas, or whatever they want to call it, and doing groundwater injection makes sense to me. Proper use of that water. Those of you that look down Liberty Road or drive down Liberty, you see a pipeline working its way across from Liberty. That's East Bay Mud, bringing water from the American River, but originally American River water rights, being brought across towards Wallace and then tying into the East Bay aqueducts. They've fought since, I think, 1938 or 37. They've had those water rights. They're finally bringing them into fruition. If we could get these water rights and bring them into Trinitas, that's great. But anyhow, the naming operation has offered the use of their facilities as a terminus point for the groundwater recharge during excess water periods. How many of us have seen the senseless waste of water during wet years along the Great Cosgrove Creek, Highway 26, and all of western Calaveras County? Groundwater recharge makes sense to me. Although I'm not a golfer, I was privileged to view the NEMI operation and feel that this is proper use of land and not just another sprawling housing project. Just how much rainwater percolates into our precious aquifers from housing projects? None, basically. I've been silent on this project for the last 5 years because I have friends on both sides of the aisle on this. But now I feel it's time to fish or cut bait. The Nimi project, as it now exists, in my opinion, is a definite part of the county. Supervisors have come and gone. I think I might have all of them in since whenever this thing started. Stein, Fine, Bailey, Erickson, and soon Claudia. These folks continue to reap their salaries and benefits, while Nimi has been choking on mounting bills and incessant assaults by a few vocal individuals. In conclusion, if the board has the authority, I would suggest that Nimi be given, if one such exists, a conditional use permit to allow for the funded playing of what I refer to as cow pasture pool on his existing facility as a means of garnering a living off his property in addition to the office. Thank you for your consideration. Mike, also as a closing deal, in 2000, this has been going on since like 2001 or whatever. 2003, a project was started, and it holds, actually it's a dam, holding 177 billion cubic feet of water, generating 745 megawatts of power. It's in testing operation right now, and where is it, folks? It's in western Mexico. It's in, done, finished. Let's cut through some of the baloney and move on with this thing. Thanks again, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Les.
Tracy Busby, I'm with the Deputy Sheriff's Association. Sheriff Downham wants me to make sure that I say that it's a Deputy Sheriff's Association, not the Sheriff's Department. I invited all of you to our Christmas dinner last Saturday, hoping that I could feed you before I harped on you about the Trinitas project and other development. Russ and Rita, I do thank you for coming. Gary, thanks for coming also. Obviously, with what we've seen here today, people getting laid off, we looked at the state. We know next year is going to be much worse. So instead of spending 5 minutes up here belaboring what others have said, as Mr. Frost and a few of the other gentlemen came up and spoke, yeah, I think it is now. We're at a point. I don't know how long this process can take, and I don't want to harp on other staff members of the county, but it seems at this point it's almost getting ridiculous that a decision needs to be made. If we, as we talked about, at least a temporary use permit to get us through this process. I mean, people talk open space. I don't know what's more open space than a golf course. It would generate some income and dollars for infrastructure. I'm actually fearful with what's coming up for the people I represent at the Deputy Sheriff's Association, that we're going to be looking at laying off possibly even sworn staff. And working the streets and working up in Calaveras County, we run awful thin to begin with. So if you folks have an avenue to generate some dollars, I think you need to take a serious look at opening this. I'm pretty sure that this is not going to be costing the county money to build this. I think that mitigation fees and stuff will come from Trinitas to pay for those things. So I want to make it clear to the public, they kind of slammed us when we stepped out as the first union to endorse this, that it was the Sheriff's Department. It is not. It's the Deputy Sheriff's Association. We are a union, and we know that our dollars come for wages, benefits, and to have staff comes from dollars that come into this county. And I think it's very important that we start looking at every alternative in any type of business that would come and generate some dollars up here. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Roy Stockery. I'm the president of the Genuine Firefighters Association. And I'm here on behalf of the men and women of the Genuine Fire Association, not the Protection District. And I'm here to endorse the Trinitas Golf Course. Just kind of building on what other people said here. Our state and federal government are having trying times right now, in my opinion, because of mismanagement of our money and putting mandates on jobs and industry. The Genuine Fire Protection District covers about 8,000 people. And, you know, there's about 20 volunteers that help protect those 8,000 people. And funding is pretty limited. And we're actually starting to feel the pinch. Our budget's smaller this fiscal year. And in past years, we depended on grants from the state and federal government to help subsidize our budget. And in the near future, I feel that that money's going to dry up. And bringing Trinitas in will generate money for our district. It'll make the property values start rising again, because that's what we mainly generate our money from, is the property values. And not only that, the volunteers feel like they're pretty burdened with calls. Like I said, we've got 8,000 people, and we have 20 volunteers, and we have 2 case staff during the day that are burdened with all the calls, and funds are low, and people are starting to get worn out. And we think by this golf course coming into our district, it'll help generate money and help our fire district generate some more funds. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, this is a little change of pace. My name is Shaylin Stratton. I'm a planner 3 with the planning department. And as many of you know, this will be Bob Spellman's last board of directors, board of supervisors meeting. He is retiring on the 26th of December, and I'm here to speak for our staff to thank him for the work that he's done. We want him to know how much we appreciate what he's done, and we think that he should be recognized by the board for the time, effort, and commitment that he has given to this county over the past 6 years as both interim director and then as a planning director through some very, very tough times. And I would like to, like I said, to speak on behalf of the staff and offer our thanks and our appreciation, and would ask the board to do the same.
Thank you.
Good morning, happy holidays, everyone. My name is David Hirsch, and I live in the south of the state, out in the western Calaveras County. And what I'd like to reiterate is that I'm a farmer just outside of Calaveras County. I'm in San Joaquin County, however, about 2 miles from the Trinitas project. However, I'm stealing all your water. If you've got the grid below us up there, well, I'm using most of the water in that area. I'm a small farmer. I have 320 acres out there. I'm one of the smaller farmers, but I'm gobbling up all that water supply that's beneath our ground. And I'm one of the smaller farmers out there, so I think it's essential that we go for this surface water project that we've been talking about here this morning. I'm not real political in many issues, but I see it as a necessity. One of my best friends just got laid off, and I feel for him very much. When I go to Trinitas, and I understand that he can put many people to work, and I'm sure he'll be prudent about who he hires, and most of them being from Calaveras County, because that's where the Mooney family's direction is to support Calaveras County. So I'm very much in support of that project. I'd also like to say that I'm a golfer, so I do support the project for my own concern. However, when I want to bring friends up to my home and family from out of my area to my home, they say, let's go to dinner. Well, what do I take these people? I have to drive 45 minutes to the nearest location to have a nice social evening with these people, generally speaking. Sometimes that's to stop. I prefer keeping my money in Calaveras County because I'm a resident here, have been for 20 years. So I would like to see a development in my area. I understand Calaveras County supports the cluster issues of development. Well, I've seen Mr. Mooney's project, its scope, and hopefully at some point we will allow that to happen. So I can drive 5 minutes to the nearest cluster development and then have a nice social evening. Not that we don't have a few locally, but it'd be very nice to have them in the western half of our county where I live, and I can take my family and friends and very much enjoy. So again, I reiterate, please support the Trinitas project. somehow we need to get this with you guys as soon as possible so we can put these people to work who are losing their jobs. And I feel for them. Fortunately, I'm retired. I don't have to worry about it at this point in my life. But I did lose my job back in 1980 because of crop hurricanes. I understand their position today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Squire, and my family owns Valley Springs Home Center. We purchased it in 2004 with a vision of providing quality products at a fair price and to grow as a community. We immediately reorganized the store and added $1 million in inventory, $1 million, and 21 new staff. 90% of them live in Valley Springs, and 95% of them live within a 10-mile radius. My wife and I purchased a home, and our children go to Valley Springs Elementary. After purchasing the business in 2004, we were rewarded with, in 2005 and 2006, we grew 32% and 12% each year. However, in 2008, our lumber and building material sales are in the tank. We reluctantly laid off 16 employees, all from Calaveras County. The tax money that we normally collect, which the county's not going to get this year, is $250,000. And at this point, we've added services, and we're at a point where whether it's worth to add any more services. We've toured the Trinitas project, and we firmly believe that is an excellent use of land. The job unemployment rate is at 9.5%, I believe, in the county. And Mike will buy locally, hire locally. I mean, it's like $20 million of business. And I think it's time that we move ahead with this project. Everything looks good, and I think that it's important to the community that we move ahead and support it. Thank you.
Good morning, Tim McSorley, Executive Director of Council of Governments, and I don't want to belabor the point, but there's actually some good news, but let me start off with a little bit of additional bad news, so to speak. There's actually two issues with the state budget. One is the deficit that's continuing to grow, the other is the cash flow issue. Currently, the legislature and the governor are looking at suspending construction projects, and I'm speaking obviously from a transportation perspective. To address the cash flow issue, they are considering suspending construction projects. We are drafting a letter to our state legislators to hopefully prevent them from doing that, because it has certainly serious negative impacts. On the brighter side, the California Transportation Commission, I was down at the hearings last week, has adopted guidelines for Prop 1B, State and Local Partnership Program, to provide what are called the self-help counties with a program of $1 billion. 95% of that is going to go to self-help counties. Those are counties that have sales taxes that are devoted to transportation projects and programs. 5% of that $1 billion is going to be available to jurisdictions that have developed a uniform developer fees, and there's Calaveras as one. So I forwarded that information already to Public Works. Applications are due April 1st for those kinds of projects, eligible for up to $1 million as a one-to-one match. As part of the CTC hearings, there was a prolonged discussion about the stimulus packages that are being considered by both the state and federal governments, and I'm passing out the latest draft. It's hot off the presses just this morning. The Regional Transportation Planning Agencies, CSAC, RCRC, the Rural Counties Task Force, all of those agencies that have transportation interests have put together this list for both the state and federal legislators to consider when they're starting to look at the stimulus package. So if there's any, I won't go through all the long laundry list. there's any questions, I'm more than happy to help if I can. And finally, on a little bit of a lighter note, today the Council of Governments is celebrating its 10th anniversary, and we have the annual hobnob, and you are all welcome to come enjoy some clam chowder and socialize and look at some of the programs and projects that we've been developing over the last couple of years. And it is open to the public, so we welcome everyone to come over and visit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's down, Sheriff. So I just wanted to talk about yesterday's events and thank Mr. Walker and his office and the other department heads that they were understanding and very cooperative. Basically, thank the county employees for doing what we needed them to do. It got strung out significantly because the information we had, we felt that we had to bring resources out of Sacramento to help us with what we needed to do, and that formed a significant delay. We are going to be getting together with the CAO's office to develop a very formal protocol for those kinds of events. Unfortunately, so much of what we have to do was driven by the information that we get at the time. And with the history of the Government Center, what happened a few years ago, and what happened in Oregon a few days ago, we have to take these things very, very seriously. We know it's a hideous inconvenience to the workflow of the people, but I think safety has to be the first consideration. And mostly, I just want to thank everybody for the cooperation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Mary Sawicki, Director of Calaveras Works and Human Services. We're aware that these are really hard economic times, and especially at Human Services are cognizant that the holidays coming up. It's a really rough time for folks. And we know that the holidays are very special moments for families, in particular kids. And so what we'd like to do is invite folks to come on December 23rd and bring their children between the hours of 9 and 3 in our foyer downstairs where Santa Claus is coming, and the kids and families can have their pictures taken. There'll be 2 pictures per kid for the Santa, and it's a service we're offering, and we hope folks will come and join us. Thank you.
You mentioned those times again, please.
9 to 3.
Thank you.
On the 23rd.
Any other people wish to address the board on an item not on the agenda? In that event, we will move to these are the addenda, first being item 10A. This is the resolution approving the agreement with Human Resources Council to provide Stage 1 child care services for CalWorks. I believe this is Wicky's domain.
Good morning. This particular item is a contract that we have on an ongoing basis with the Human Resources Council to provide child care services for our county. It's late in the year because we didn't receive the allocation late. And so we're asking your approval on providing $275,000 for the ongoing service.
Any discussion from the board? Questions?
I'll move this item.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes on a 5-0 vote. We now move to item 10B. This is a discussion and possible action regarding a resolution amending Resolution 07-225, authorizing the acceptance of the grant award from the State of California Department of Homeland Security to construct a mobile data computer system interoperable communications project for the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning. Dave Hutchinson from the Sheriff's Office. In 2004, the Sheriff's Office began a broad-based communication plan to build an infrastructure that would support future voice and wireless data to patrol cars and the dispatch center. The purpose of that is long-term to reduce costs and currently improve productivity. Following some developmental designs with 2 engineering firms, we had submitted a grant application in 2007 to the Public Safety Interoperability Communications Grant Program that was born from the 911 Commission in New York. We were one of 6 counties regionally that were funded. We had passed a resolution earlier in 2007 to approve submission of the application. Before you today are essentially 2 things. One, we've been awarded funding, and this will allow us to receive the funds. So the first action is for you to approve the county to receive the funding. As this is occurring, we're preparing both a spending plan, a request for proposal, and full financial analysis of what the project will look like and how it will be financed. The second portion of your action today is to approve a memorandum of understanding with the City of Sacramento. This is a little convoluted. This is the first state-federal grant that I've seen here in the last 20 years or so that feds have sent money to the state and then have assigned an incorporated city to administer essentially a federal grant. So it's a little different than years past. Council has concerns with some of the language in the memorandum of understanding, and you'll see those notations in red. Those comments have been forwarded to both the state and federal departments of Homeland Security. But because of an issue of timing before the end of the current calendar year, we need to have the application approved from you, along with that language from council, sent to the City of Sacramento. And then over the next couple of months, I'll come back to you with the final spending plan, a final request for proposal, and the final MOU for execution.
So you're asking for approval of this MOU as amended?
As amended by council, correct.
So, is this a follow-up to the one we just approved a week ago?
Correct. Last Tuesday, you had the COPS
Right.
Technology Grant Program.
And we're going to submit this. Is this acceptable, or are we going to
Yes.
go back and forth?
The department will work with council back and forth between the State Department of Homeland Security and I'll be back to you sometime after.
And the City of Sacramento. So if there's some other minor modifications, this could then come back over the next week or 2.
No,
So would you want?
I won't be back to you in just one more time, which will be the final execution of the MOU and the final spending plan for the grant and the final funding.
But we're asking the state and the City of Sacramento to approve this with our suggested changes.
Correct.
So they want to do a change to the change,
That's correct.
and that could come back. So would you want a motion based on approval by county council?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
in
As
case
amended by
there's
council.
some other minor modifications?
Correct.
Did you have something?
Yeah, just quickly, and Captain Hawkins and I can discuss this so we're clear that the nature of the changes sought by county counsel's office, we're not the outlier. We're not the only county that has raised some of the issues with this contract, so we're not holding the process up or standing outside the process. Other counties have very similar issues, and so we think they'll be able to be resolved.
All right, any further questions or comments from the board?
I just have one question, Clay, on this item 10 on the matching funds. I don't recall in the action that we approved 2 weeks ago that there was this 20% matching
No.
requirement.
Correct. Last week was the COPS Technology Grant Program, and we're leveraging 2 grants into one project. Today's action is the Public Safety Interoperability Grant Program. In the proposed budget, we had included a 20% match, a lower amount, about $600,000 at the time. The state and the federal government have raised the funding a little bit, so the match is going from 129 to 161. The
129 was included as an item in the proposed budget. This item is coming to you, but both grants discussed it. And second, the Public Safety Fund, Assembly Bill 443, has the funding in it to meet this 20% match, but the match is just a little slightly higher.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the public on this item? In that case, do I hear a motion?
Well, there's two items. So I move that we amend the resolution 07225 and that we approve the memorandum of understanding as agreed to by the Sheriff's Office and County Council.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on 5-0 vote. We'll take a brief moment, a 5-minute recess before moving to the next item on
I don't have any. Oh, I think you're doing it. No, I have to know myself. What? That is really not my. I know, I've met. Yeah, but I mean, beyond. Yeah. And, so he's trying yeah, I feel pretty,
now we're out.
Last year,
I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just saying that's why are you voting? Being a journalist.
Glad I'm broke.
Merry Christmas to all of you.
My thing, I've always wanted to Yeah, I was going to see you, but I driving down.
Outstanding so far. It's really heck with it. Concerned member of the public.
Okay.
Council.
Oh, yes.
About, where do you know? Am I? Oh, anyway, so
Yes.
concerned about I didn't say the car was but if it is probably only when you
I don't think so. Oh my God.
No, she's got it. I'm going to have tripod in
We're back in discussion now. We now get to consider the topic of the introduction of an ordinance to revise Title 17, Section 17.04.030 of the Calaveras County Municipal Code, addressing legal access requirements. I believe that Director Selman is going to begin this process, and that we'll be hearing from the committee that was assigned some time ago or tasked to bring this report back to us, and we're looking forward to hearing it.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Robert Selman, Planning Director. First and foremost, we have a need and a privilege, I think, and we always tend to forget at the last second of thanking all the people who worked so hard in this committee. I'm not going to try to name them because they came and went, and everybody had a wonderful contribution. This led to what we euphemistically refer to as vigorous discussion as we were trying to resolve this issue. But to that end, I think this committee served all of this county very well, and should be first and foremost applauded and thanked, and David Wood as chairman led that. Secondly, we have something of an answer, we believe. This is, like all things, a compromise. It is an attempt to work through all of the issues in this process and come up with an answer that will work for our county. We have that in the form of a proposed ordinance, which we would ask you to introduce. And like all compromises that are working under something of a time frame, we have a couple little things we're going to have to change in this process. We have one clerical change we'd like to make, which we can get into in just a couple of minutes. I believe also the county surveyor has a couple of comments that we would like some clarification that we can add into the ordinance today, so that whatever we do, we can incorporate as a first reading, so that as long as your board approves it, it can go forward to a second reading after the first of the year and be in effect 30 days thereafter. I say that because it's somewhat of an imperative. We do have an emergency ordinance that will expire on the 31st of December. We believe we can work through that without causing any harm as long as we have first reading taken care of. So I'm going to let David introduce and discuss this in detail. If there's any technical issues I need to get back into at time of consideration of your ordinance, I would do so. Obviously, let me just cover the one thing right off the beginning. Relative to the actual language on the access on paragraph A1, we have a double call, and it refers to both the county ordinance language, section 81034B, and the state law, which is section 1273.10. And the intention was to talk about where we have locally adopted standards plus the state law having a different minimum road width. That can create some confusion, so we're recommending we just strike the language on the county ordinance. So the parenthetically, so that sentence would read, the road substantially meets the design criteria set forth in section 1773. Just delete that reference to section 81034B and the word and. It accomplishes exactly what we wanted to do. We were trying to get clarification. Sometimes that creates potential for confusion, so we thought we'd keep it simple. Okay, and I think that's all I have. And David, please hear the speak all.
Thank you. Hello, board suits and supervisors and staff and public. My name is David Wood. I'm a resident of Camp Connell. I've had the honor of chairing the committee. I'd like to try to condense many months of vigorous negotiations and discussions and to give you some historical background for the recommendations that came out of the committee, the verbiage. This is a very thorny issue. As you know, we were started and charged with the issue of legal access. Mr. Walensky made comments that were very appropriate to advise us how to get started. The issue morphed to right of access, adequate access, and even in public roads. Like all thorny bushes that you decide to prune, you grab hold of it very gingerly, you work around the edges, and you cut on it, hopefully structurally. The original ordinance 17-040-030 was passed in 1986, and it was the prime problem that we dealt with. It was, I would say, suspended without coordination with the general plan, and it was only 2 sentences in length, but it was really an issue. During the course of the committee's review, we looked at some 16-plus documents, everything from state ordinances, legal opinions, court cases, general plan was referenced, Public Resource Code 4290-91, etc., and coalesce those. As a leadership approach, I realized that going straight to the adequate access or the legal access would not be the issue, so we sort of worked around the edges and sort of unraveled it. One of the first issues we dealt with was adequate access. We looked at Public Resource Code 4290 and 4291 for some history on that. One of the things that became apparent of our committee and was a unanimous recommendation of the committee was that the county's most modern ordinance, Chapter 810, has never been certified by the Board of Forestry. A previous older one was. So one of the recommendations we would have for the board to pass along to the Public Works would be to resubmit 810 for recertification. One of the next issues that we sort of grappled with is, okay, if we have to deal with this legal access issue, who decides? With the way it was implemented before, you're basically turning to a counter person in building planning to decide what does legal access is it sufficient. We decided that in general the only place that those decisions should be made would either be by a judge or by a jury in court. And we also checked that whether any other counties were dealing with legal access and determining that. We found that few were. In fact, I would say most were not. Consequently, we realized that there was an opportunity to put a disclaimer in place. I believe you had copies of that disclaimer attached. And the disclaimer is basically to advise all of the people coming in requiring permits that the county would not be, in essence, I'm going to use the term certifying, that they have legal access. As well, some things got tacked on that CC&Rs had never been, were not taken for action by the county, so that put that disclaimer there. And while we started to think that that disclaimer should go in the building permit, we realized that in general there would be other places in the county, wells, septic, building, planning, and possibly encroachment permits, where that disclaimer would also be appropriate. So if a property owner had come in seeking permits, wanting to develop their unimproved property, they would see in multiple spots that they had been advised of this, and clearly puts the responsibility back on them. One of the other issues then we dealt with associated with the roads is that how the roads come into being as public roads that are publicly maintained, public roads that are privately maintained, historic roads that have an unknown issue. One of the recommendations coming out of the committee would be that the Public Works try to put together a tracking system to track the roads in terms of an author of dedication and the dedication paperwork. One of the things you have to realize is that when we've been fortunate enough to have a surveyor that's served with the county for many years, is Bruce Childfeld, that a tremendous amount of information is in that person's head, but the next surveyor may not have that historical information. We should do as much as we can to capture the corporate knowledge and put systems in place. Now, when we got right down to it and we looked for how to go after the heart of the legal access issues, two things led us there. One was, they both come out of the general plan. Goal Roman numeral 2-15 says to protect the reasonable use of property in the county. And the policy is to allow the construction of one single-family residence on each legally created parcel capable of supporting such use. The implementation measures call out 4 reasons not to do that, or conditions. Such use is permitted in the zoning district. Apply to the parcel. The parcel has a source of potable domestic water satisfying county requirements, sewage disposal, and this is important, no known health or safety hazards exist on the parcel. The other goal that was driving us was goal Roman numeral 2-22, which is continue to assure that all existing legally established parcels, uses, and zonings retain their legal status. Buried down in the implementation measure, it says the division of lands or a local ordinance enacted was not subject to those provisions at the time of creation, including any parcel of unit of land at the time legally created by deed or record survey shall not be denied the issuance of a permit or approval to develop the real property with a single-family residential structure unless a specific written comment is made by the county's public health or safety department. Again, referring back to the safety on the parcel. With those two goals as clear directive, we embarked upon rewriting the verbiage to section 1704030. It's very parallel to the temporary or interim ordinance that you have that has a sunset clause. And I would recommend, I think our committee came out with a recommendation that if there is a delay in implementing new verbiage, that at least you extend the sunset clause date. At this time, Bruce Childs was out on medical leave and not able to contribute to the committee as fully as I'm sure he would have liked to. We did refer to many of his memos as well as county council's memos. And so I'd like to introduce Bruce. He's got 2 additions he'd like to discuss.
Thank you. Good morning, Bruce Child, County Surveyor. Firstly, when I took off on medical leave, I left a memo sent to the Planning Commission, and I'd like to share copies with the board. Basically on my position on the matter. And in reviewing what the ad hoc committee came up with, I think there's a good compromise. I saw a couple of issues that I thought should be addressed.
go. That's right, Chris.
Okay, it would appear from a quick read of this that we're in one of those think on your feet moments. The way I'd like to proceed with this is first,
I do apologize, I probably should have gotten to you sooner, but
well, I
wasn't aware this was even coming to the board.
under the circumstances, we clearly understand the nature month, but it looks as if we have issues of policy, issues of law, and issues of implementation of protocol implied by this, and that it will be incumbent upon us to try to reconcile two documents. So what I'd like to do, the way I'd like to proceed is first have, if the board has any questions of our surveyor, let's start with that. Secondly, if there are further questions about the reconciliation of these two documents that are before us, I'd like to move into that with questions for the planning director, the chair of the committee, and the surveyor, followed by public comment and input, and then board deliberation.
So I would like to add that there, in the draft that's being presented to the board, I did have a couple suggestions that are floated by the committee and wanted to include in my presentation.
Are those in writing at this point?
Not as such. Like I said, I threw it together pretty quickly. Some of it's in writing, some of it's scribbled in.
Okay, would you like to read those out?
In paragraph A, they address certificate of occupancy for said residential dwelling on a parcel which is created or approved prior to January 1st, 1991. And I would like to include in there, including parcels of land created from adjustment of parcels existing before said date. And the reason why I do that is when, in the past, when I've looked at applying this section of the zoning code, what I was told was that actually a lot line adjustment isn't a development permit, so I couldn't really apply that, the access issue. So now, when it's a question, I make them put a note on the map that that could be an issue. But that's why I wanted the inclusion of that in the ordinance. And the second one is when they describe what legal access would be presented. And on the second sheet, section B. I know there's a number of parcels in the county that are accessed over federal land. And the feds will not grant an easement, but they do give a revocable letter of consent. And I would like to see that it's written, included in there, or written and licensed across government lands, federal government lands.
Please repeat that language.
Or written license across federal government lands. I've seen one actual deeded easement come through my office over the last 26 years from the feds, and the guy literally knew someone in Congress. Because I asked him how he got it.
I recall several of those in my district. Difficult with that. Okay, any other things that you're...
Go over your first amendment.
Yes,
What
sir.
was your first amendment addressing?
Specifically
boundary line adjustments?
Parcels created by boundary line adjustment of parcels that existed prior to.
Well, boundary line adjustment doesn't create a parcel.
No, it
It's taking from one parcel and giving to another parcel.
Right, it adjusts.
So you've lost me here. So what is your concern?
Well, your description of that is true, but it's something that could be confused in the future.
In what way?
Well, as to whether the parcel was created at the date that lot line adjustment transpired, or whether it was actually created way back when. And it is open to interpretation, and I'm looking into the future.
Wouldn't it help then to reference the adjustment of the parcels? What we should say is it includes parcels that were adjusted by boundary line.
Parcels that existed prior to this.
So I'm just not sure we're creating a...
I think what I wrote was including parcels created by adjustment of lots existing prior to that date. And we understand it's not a problem. It could be a problem only if somebody had a deed with a dated reference that was after 91, but the parcel in fact was created prior to that. So it's just going to come down. So it's a clarification too, because based on my experience in the past, in the future, this could be misinterpreted. So
I don't understand what can be misinterpreted. What can be misinterpreted?
As to whether when the parcel was created. And it's just a clarification.
So you're saying if I have one parcel that was created prior to 1991 and one afterwards, and I do a boundary line adjustment between those parcels, so what happens?
Well, the leftover from the one that existed prior to 91 would be eligible for a permit. You're talking about a parcel that, a pre-91 parcel and a post-91.
Well, the way it's written, you're saying pre-91 has an exemption from the legal access requirements of post-91 parcels. So I don't know what a boundary line, I'm having a very difficult time understanding how a boundary line adjustment can influence anything.
Well, there's lot line adjustments that can encompass hundreds of acres. And there's some that adjust a little sliver of land, but it does create another, it reconfigures the parcel and it comes up with a new one. And I just want to clarify the language in here to clarify that old parcel still exists. And that's the purpose of the language.
Mr. Chairman, the simple answer would be yes, for the sake of argument. We had two 391 lots. The lot line adjustment was done, and 8 years later, in 1999, those two parcels were sold. You'd have a new deed with that date, and we're just trying to make
I
sure
see what you're saying.
that clearly they were created by a lot line adjustment at the appropriate time.
Okay, so you're saying that the date of the lot line adjustment shouldn't date the parcel.
Exactly. Right.
Got it.
Yeah, we've had several of those actually come up in the last year. All right. So I'd like to just do a process check and make sure that the committee and the department are in sync with these two language changes. Of course, the latter is the one that Bob came up with the language on, so I'm assuming that. But is this acceptable to the committee?
I believe the committee doesn't feel that the additions or the deletion affect the intent of the new ordinance.
All right. And regarding the surveyor's conveyance, do you believe that those two items take care of at least encompass the comments that you've delivered in the document you just submitted? The rest of it is really protocols. The rest of it is protocols and sort of implementation measures for this. Is that correct?
My memo was just basically to try to explain how complicated these situations are. And it's intended to be informative. And I think that what the committee has come up with, given the past direction of the board, is a good compromise. But it goes to conclusions that I was concerned about.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board at this point?
No, go ahead.
First, I do not understand item 3 on your memo. It's like, okay, maybe yes, okay, maybe no, and I'm not real clear. If the county gives a permit without proof of legal access, it gives the applicant some license of access by issuance of the permit. That gets to the gist of why we established this committee. And just if the road's 10 feet wide, then we can do it. I mean, to me, this is the essence of what we're here discussing today. And just putting a note or disclaimer would avoid such assumptions. I have a problem with that.
That was a suggestion.
Oh, a suggestion. Okay. Thank you.
I presented this memo before I went in for surgery, and this is my input to the committee and to the planning commission.
Are you comfortable yourself with the issues that you raised in number 3 seem to, at least in one version, be answered by the disclaimer language that was submitted? Have you had a chance to review that, and do you see that as responsive to that concern?
It looked like it to me. Of course, the legal counsel
Item
address that.
Item 3 says that Moscow is concerned that the permit would grant some license. That's really not. I think the concern was that it might be perceived as giving some license. We've never suggested or believed that the building permit grants a license. In fact, the problem is created that it does not.
I think the only reason why I bring that up, Jim, is because of that section in the zoning code.
Mr. Chair, may I also offer that Janice Elliott reviewed the